1, 2, 3, 4 on, lights, pressure.
On the outside, it's just another DC-6, but this one's specially adapted for moth busting. Its target, the white-spotted caterpillar. When it emerges as a moth, it can multiply up to 1 million times a season. Tomorrow, the plane will start test runs covering a 40 square kilometre grid pattern across Auckland's eastern suburbs. If the moths breed, it's feared they'll strip backyards of vegetation and move on to our native forests. Inside 7 sealed tanks like these is a natural bacteria organic spray called BTK. It looks like coffee, but it'll be sprayed like mist over the East Auckland suburbs from a height of just 48 metres. So how long before we know if all the spray works?
It would be several months, in fact many months, before we can categorically say that the thing has been a total success.
Weather permitting, spraying should start sometime in the next 3 days. Kate Hawkesby, One Network News. Some residents are covering up to keep the spray away.
I will definitely stay indoors and for a considerable period afterwards. I'll also keep Milo indoors. Come on.
80,000 people live inside the spray zone and some are concerned.
Yes, I've just taken the precaution, as I have a breathing problem, of buying a mask, I suppose you call it, just to put over my mouth.
We've been 6 months pregnant. They don't exactly know what's going to happen.
And further east, one mother says she's not taking any risks with her allergic son, Matthew.
I've got a sister who lives further out of Auckland a little bit. We'll just pack up and go each evening that we know the spraying's happening.
She'll also cover up the sandpit and move toys inside. But a report commissioned by the Ministry of Health says the spray is safe.
There should be no reason for people to remove themselves and go away to get away from the spray.
They've said that it's safe. I accept that they believe that it's safe, but I also accept that for allergic people, they probably haven't done all the tests that are necessary.
But those who've seen the white-spotted caterpillar's dirty work across the Tasman say spraying's the best solution.
It was just bizarre to see them, the whole tree, just alive with these caterpillars, and they literally ate the tree.
Just minutes ago, the DC-6 took a test run over the area at 500 feet. At dawn tomorrow, and weather permitting, spraying will begin. Kate Hawkesby, One Network News. An early wake-up call for eastern suburb residents this morning.
Well, this noise going over, with the aircraft, and that woke me up, and I thought I'd come out and have a look and see what was going on.
He wasn't alone. People in pyjamas watched from windows, from the letterbox, from the street. Joggers, not bothered by the spray, took their early morning run. Some even saw the funny side. And not everybody shut their pets indoors, but those who were stressed about the spray took precautions. The Herald issued its delivery staff with face masks, and most chose to wear them.
They say on the TV that it's 100% safe, but it probably isn't.
Bit of an acrid smell.
Yeah, a pleasant smell. Dog's urine.
But for this asthmatic walking her dogs, smell wasn't the only problem.
Dreadful smell, isn't it? And yes, it is. It's affecting me. It's tight in my chest.
She decided to go back indoors. The spraying took 5 hours in total. The DC-6 was only an hour into its first run when ignition problems forced it back to base. A helicopter sprayed low-lying gullies in the meantime. This afternoon, scientists collected samples of the spray. They'll be taken to laboratories and fed to caterpillars to see if the first phase of Operation Evergreen's been a success. In the meantime, eastern suburb residents can brace themselves for the next flight within a fortnight. Kate Hawkesby, One Network News.
As you can see here, this caterpillar is looking dead, and this is one from foliage that was sprayed. No response from that one either. Yes, it looks like it's alive.
Just before dawn, and this keen scientists laying ground traps to catch droplets of the spray. The size of the droplets will test whether the spraying's been a success. And as the sun rose, it was business as usual on the waterfront.
Hasn't bothered me at all. I'd rather see the tussock moth gone.
I'm just pleased they're doing something about it.
No, it doesn't worry me at all, me.
Herald delivery staff wore masks while residents were up early to watch.
It's just the same as Marmite.
But smell wasn't the only problem. What does it feel like on your eyes?
Like a sort of water, but it's holding our eyelids down.
And some mums were unimpressed.
I really hate it. I mean, I didn't want to go up today, but I mean, I have to.
The Operation Evergreen team say today's mission was a success. They hope to spray again next week. Kate Hawkesby, One Network News.
Another early wake-up call for Auckland's eastern suburbs. This time, the paper boys at least were ready. The spray's not harmful, but it can irritate. The Forestry Ministry believes it'll end the tussock moth menace, but admits it's worried about the effect of Auckland's fickle weather on the whole operation.
We really have only one chance to get rid of this pest. Only one chance.
The DC-6 carried out several runs, at times flying so low, the pilot could almost have taken directions from street signs. The Ministry says it couldn't have asked for a better day for its aerial spraying operation.
It was a splendid morning if we wanted to spray the eastern suburbs of Auckland today. There was very little wind, and the little wind that there was just right for us.
To give the spray time to take effect, eastern suburbs residents are being asked not to water their gardens until the weekend. And the Forestry Ministry says the next time the DC-6 will take to Auckland's skies is early next week. Gideon Porter, 3 National News. This is Gideon Porter for Nightline.
The spraying gangs continued the assault on foot today, waging war on these, the first stages of the tussock moth. A few newly hatched caterpillars were crawling today, but not for much longer.
We're really trying to do it, the ground spray, 7 days apart. We've got to get the caterpillars in the early stages of development so it can be most effective.
But ground assaults aren't enough to wipe out the predator, and Operation Evergreen is relying on aerial spraying from this DC-6. So far it's only been on one mission. That was 11 days ago, and it's time for another air raid.
It is a little bit frustrating, but we're not worried yet at all. We still have a few more days up our sleeve.
It's not just delays in spraying that are causing concern for Operation Evergreen. The latest threat is from the public, many of whom are still taking vegetation out of the infected area. The situation is so serious, Operation Evergreen is considering legal action against those caught in the act.
If they take the vegetation which contains egg masses and caterpillars away from these controlled sites like this one here, it could spread the disease, the pest, elsewhere in New Zealand very easily, and that would be catastrophic.
Especially designated tip and composting facilities have been established in the affected area to contain the moth. And with better weather on the way, the aerial blitz is likely to resume tomorrow. Hilary Pankhurst, 3 National News.
On its last legs, this tussock moth caterpillar will soon be dead from the poisoning it received on the weekend. A DC-6 swept over the treetops of Auckland's eastern suburbs early on Saturday morning, dropping 7 tanks of BTK spray onto the gardens below. Scientists snipped samples soon after. They then put caterpillars on the clippings to test how effective the poison is.
Whereas this one here has been sprayed, and in that one I can see no sign of feeding at all, which of course is exactly what we want to find.
While early results are good, the work is far from over.
We're still monitoring the egg hatch in the field, and then we get real busy again straight after the next spray when we repeat these tests with the potted plant.
Tomorrow it will be decided if changes are needed to make the next spray more potent. All going well, 4 or 5 more DC6 sprays will be needed, and weather permitting, the next one will be early one morning this weekend. And weather is a crucial factor.
Yes, unfortunately, you've got to have the correct weather conditions for spraying. You've got to have a certain amount of wind and certainly no rain.
Blue skies and light winds allowing, scientists hope the DC6 should make its final spray in about 6 weeks' time. Alistair Wilkinson, 3 National News.
Getting in early to get on top of the tussock moth threat. At 5:30 this morning, a Canadian-hired DC6 took to the air. These exclusive TV3 pictures giving a bird's-eye view of the spraying operation over Auckland's eastern suburbs. The DC6 made numerous low-level runs, often at heights of less than 50 metres above residents' homes. But most people treated the early morning intrusion as a novelty.
Oh, we did hear it come over and we were still in bed, so, I mean, yeah, the kiddies raced out, looked out the window and wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that just has to be done and to protect our forests and things like that, so let's hope it does the trick.
One resident was concerned about health side effects for her asthmatic husband.
He's been in hospital with asthma, but we anticipated just keeping the house closed and perhaps he'd wear a face mask if we could smell it inside, but I really don't think it's there for long enough.
The only hiccup today was a minor ignition problem in one engine. The Forestry Ministry says that was quickly fixed and it's confident the spray can end the tussock moth menace.
We've done some very good research work on that, and we know it works extremely well on the first 3 stages of the caterpillar. We know it kills them all, and all they have to do is eat it.
Weather permitting, the early wake-up calls for eastern suburbs residents will continue once a week for the next 5 or 6 weeks. By then, the novelty of the low-flying DC6 may well and truly have worn off. Gideon Porter, 3 National News.
This is what it will look like as it swoops over Auckland's eastern suburbs. And just 50 metres above their heads, this is what it will sound like. Today, the 40-year-old DC6 that was once flown by Ansett in Australia put on a show for the media. Ted Mitchell is a pilot of vast experience and very few words.
Well, it takes lots of concentration, but that's what we do.
Tomorrow, the plane will skim the treetops over the drop zone so residents can see and hear it. Weather permitting, it'll be the real thing on Friday morning. But the effectiveness of the spraying won't be known immediately.
It would be several months, in fact many months, before we can categorically say that the thing has been a total success. It won't be a matter of weeks.
Today, it looked like someone had turned on the spray too soon, but it was just wash day for an Air Force Hercules. On Friday morning, 14,000 litres of the BTK spray will be pumped into 7 tanks aboard the DC6. Light winds and clear skies at that time will see the start of an operation that'll be the beginning of the end for the tussock moth caterpillar in New Zealand. Bob McNeil, 3 National News. This is Bob McNeil for Nightline.
Well, look at this, I found something.
An enemy on the move. The minute tussock moth caterpillars are now emerging in large numbers, triggering the plan to deal with them. The spraying will begin next Thursday, but before that, the DC6 will make a number of rehearsal runs using coloured water to check for any problems.
Now that we've got enough caterpillars hatching, we can start planning for our first spray, which is likely to be later next week. We couldn't do anything until now because the caterpillars were overwintering as eggs.
The DC6 is already on its way from Canada and should arrive next Monday. It'll take at least 5 low-level sorties, each a week apart, to wipe out the tussock moths. New restrictions have been implemented to stop the highly mobile caterpillars invading other parts of the city.
In the meantime, we're moving under the Biosecurity Act to put a ban on all plant matter leaving the area. That's except for lawn clippings. We're asking residents to keep their plant matter on their properties if at all possible, but we're also providing a free dump site.
The DC6 will be flying at around about this altitude when it makes its spraying runs, but residents will be warned the day before, when a small plane will fly over, towing a banner that says, "Spraying tomorrow." Bob McNeil, 3 National News. This is the enemy, a leaf-munching caterpillar that could decimate our forests. And this is the weapon, a modified DC-6, capable of wiping out the invaders in 6 weeks. Civil Aviation says the DC-6 is safer than a single-engine plane in the event of an engine failure. The spraying will be done in daylight and at low altitude.
And they'll fly between 30 and 50 metres above the canopy, because it's very important to get the penetration and the swirling effect that you need.
All of the green area will be sprayed. It's home to 80,000 Aucklanders. And once the spraying starts, the disposal of garden rubbish will be strictly controlled to stop any caterpillars escaping.
The worst thing that can possibly happen is for uncovered trailers and trucks to take vegetative material out of the area and for material to drop off the trucks on the way to the tip sites.
Auckland's dawn chorus will be somewhat noisier when the DC-6 takes to the air in about a fortnight. But that and the $8 million cost of the operation is a price the government's willing to pay.
If the tussock moth gets loose apart from this area, then the annual cost is between $100 to $200 million a year in loss of revenue to this country.
One of the planes they looked at for the spraying job was a Hercules, like that. But with the DC-6, the engine noise is a little easier on the ears. Bob McNeil, 3 National News.
It's war, and the General's Health and Forestry Ministry experts, led by the Minister, unveiled their battle plan today.
That's the beast there, white spotted tussock moth. The moth itself isn't the problem is the caterpillar.
It'll be aerial warfare, the weapon, the insecticide BTK, the same organic spray dropped over cities in Canada and North America, tailored to kill the white-spotted tussock moth at its caterpillar stage. Here, fixed-wing aircraft are likely for the operation starting in September. 3 or 4 drops are planned 7 to 10 days apart. They'll most likely be nighttime or early morning flyovers, and the mist will be in a concentrate of about 5 litres per hectare. The Auckland infestation is centred on Kohimarama. Caterpillars were discovered here 3 months ago, sparking a major alert.
These are some of the eggs here that are in.
Scientists are monitoring the egg masses every 2 or 3 days for signs they are hatching. That's when the spraying will start. The infected area covers about 7 square kilometres, but the operation is likely to take in a vast buffer zone, some 40 square kilometres in all. The Minister says he fully understands public concerns, but the choice is a simple one. Spray a small area of Auckland now or large areas of the whole country later on. Karen Pickersgill, 3 National News.
Tussock moth eggs in the heart of Auckland's eastern suburbs. Originally from Asia, the tussock moth's only been here for a year, but it's a serious conservation risk because of its adaptability.
Our textbooks tell us that this isn't a pest in its home country, but from what we've seen, it's liking New Zealand so much it's got the potential to do an awful lot of damage.
The Forestry Ministry is planning early morning spraying runs over the area where the eggs have been found. This method has already been used in North America. Fixed-wing planes made this drop over Vancouver. If the government gives the go-ahead, the same insecticide will be dropped over 40 square kilometres of Auckland.
Is it poisonous? Did anybody tell us from the scientists that spray is harmless? Can they tell us that?
I'd be concerned about the sprays that they use, because I think at the end of the day anything like that potentially can be dangerous, and it's only long term that you ever find out that they are or they aren't.
The spray to be used is BTK, an organic insecticide also used in Canada and the US. The Forestry Ministry says it poses no public health threat.
The only problem that's ever been documented was in Vancouver, when the ground spray workers, to prove a point, spent days drenched in the stuff without wearing any protective gear at all, and they got runny noses and chapped lips.
Uncontrolled, the tussock moth would soon spread throughout the country. With these little beasts, it's a case of have wheels, will travel. They like to attach their egg cases to cars, so if you find them there, take them off and scramble them. Bob McNeil, 3 National News.